The NFL painted him out to be a villain, and now he's embracing the role. Azeez Al-Shaair had his 3-game suspension upheld after his appeal was reviewed by an independent arbiter decided by the NFLPA and the NFL. They kept it at 3 games for Azeez Al-Shaair, and he took to social media quite upset about it. Al-Shaair posting on Instagram as well as Twitter, "If you want me to be your villain, I'll be your villain," with a middle finger emoji. He said, "See you soon." That soon, of course, will be the Tennessee Titans game to end the regular season for the Houston Texans, as Al-Shaair is set to miss the game against the Miami Dolphins in Houston, the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, and the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas Day at NRG Stadium. They'll return for that Tennessee Titans game. And Al-Shaair getting a lot of backup from his teammates. You see Titus Howard, Joe Mixon, Will Anderson, who doesn't even really use social media that much during the season, Tommy Townsend, Henry To'oTo'o, Amari Lassiter, Brevin Jordan. I liked Kareem Jackson jumping in there as well, saying, bleep him. Kareem Jackson, of course, has been suspended a time or two by the NFL, but it wasn't just that. In the villain conversation, Al-Shaair putting up a picture of the Joker played by Joaquin Phoenix, a new iconic villain in recent pop culture. So he seems to be embracing this role that the NFL has painted him in. And if I was Azeez Al-Shaair, I would have a hard time not feeling like the NFL screwed me on this one. Because when you start to think about everything that happened from Azeez Al-Shaair's perspective, it does feel like the NFL kind of gave him the middle finger and did turn him into a villain throughout this process. The NFL, with no whatsoever space in the conversation for could Azeez Al-Shaair have stopped, could he have not stopped, in their memo and their letter about his hit, they said that he could have avoided Trevor Lawrence and that Lawrence had clearly begun to slide and started his slide, and Al-Shaair could have avoided him. I've watched the hit a bunch of times. I know you've watched the hit a bunch of times. I'm no expert in physics. It was one of my worst subjects when I was in school, along with many other ones, but I digress. It does not appear to me like there could have been no contact. It does not appear to me like Azeez Al-Shaair could have totally, wholly avoided contact with Trevor Lawrence. And then, again, from Azeez Al-Shaair's perspective, so the NFL says you should have totally missed him, even though it doesn't appear like that was possible. Then the Jacksonville Jaguars start pushing and shoving. Who knows what they say on the sideline? Al-Shaair retaliates. It's not a great look how he retaliated. At one point, he had an opponent's face mask and dragged them to the ground. That wasn't great, but he's also on the Jacksonville sideline and was immediately accosted by Jaguars players. So he's fighting for his own safety. His teammates arrive at some point. There's pushing, there's shoving. Who knows what was said at that moment. And as Al-Shaair's leaving, again, this is just from Al-Shaair's standpoint, whatever was said, he has a few more words and maybe is ready to have a conversation and maybe a physical altercation with one of the Jaguars players. And so he's finally off the field. And then from, again, Azeez Al-Shaair's perspective, yeah, I've been fined for some things earlier this season. He punched a player on the sideline against the Chicago Bears. He was fined for that. He got fined for a unsportsmanlike conduct, an unnecessary roughness penalty for hitting Tony Pollard late out of bounds. He was, again, fined for that. You know how many unsportsmanlike conduct, unnecessary roughness calls Azeez Al-Shaair has in his 5-year NFL career? 2. He has 2. I guess it's maybe more than 5. Anyway, in his career, he's got 2 in the past 5 years. Okay? 2 in the past 5 years. And the NFL painted him out like he had this long history of issues with the NFL. Like he'd been fined for so many occurrences that we'd be shocked with the amount of money that he left. And then they called into question his character, how much he cared about the NFL, his fellow players, his teammates, the coaches, and the fans. So if I was Azeez Al-Shaair, I would feel like I got screwed with the initial suspension of 3 games. And then the independently appointed arbiter by the NFL and NFLPA is Ramon Foster, who's a former offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Foster is currently a Nashville radio host who is a paid member of the Tennessee Titans radio network. So he catches a paycheck from a division rival. Now, Al-Shaair may know Foster. He played for the Titans last year, and Foster may have an idea of who he was as a member of the Titans, but Ramon Foster was not the only option to review this and review this suspension. Ramon Foster could have and should have recused himself or been eliminated from the potential to see this case. He's currently getting a paycheck from one of the teams in the Texans division. He currently works for one of the teams that the Houston Texans still have to play this season. Currently, he should not have been a part of this process in any way, shape, or form. Not only that, he knew Azeez Al-Shaair from Al-Shaair being on the Titans last year. Should not been a part of the process. The NFL and NFLPA had three other players as options. Jordy Nelson, who was the correct choice because he had no relationship to this situation whatsoever. Kevin Mawai, who's a former offensive lineman, former center, actually. He played for the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, you could make a sound argument that you didn't really want him doing it. And then they had Derek Brooks, who was a linebacker. Okay, Azeez Al-Shaair is a linebacker. You don't want a linebacker legislating on a linebacker. So Jordy Nelson would have made sense. And I'm not saying that every case needs to be picked this way, but when there's some clear conflict of interest from the independent arbiter being paid by one of the upcoming opponents of the Houston Texans, that doesn't feel very independent. Now, did that change Ramon Foster's ruling on this? It's not like he was going to miss the Titans game with the original suspension, then wouldn't have missed it if they had lowered the suspension. Like, the suspension length doesn't involve the Titans, but that person shouldn't have been involved in the entire process. Again, so now if I'm Azeez Al-Shaair, NFL says I could have stopped myself. I don't believe I could. NFL says I acted inappropriately on the sideline. The other team was trying to beat me up. The NFL says I have a long history. I've already been penalized twice with financial fines and been penalized by flags on the field, and I actually don't have that long of a history. And a member of the Tennessee Titans radio broadcast team was the person that my appeal went to. How does he not feel like a villain? How does he not feel like the NFL screwed him? It doesn't, just the optics of this. And again, he should be suspended. When the hit, how it occurred, the use of his forearm with the brace, and how hard he hit Trevor Lawrence, he should be suspended for that. But you could make a sound argument that the hits and the actions on the sideline are 2 games. This should have been moved from 3 games to 2 games. And if you're Azeez Al-Shaair, I understand how you are upset. I understand how you feel like you have been targeted, how you're the victim in this situation, and now why you are indeed a villain. What does this mean for the Houston Texans? Well, it means that they're going to potentially get a different mindset from an already impressive player coming back in the final game of the regular season and the likely playoff game that they will play at NRG Stadium. It's going to be good or bad for Azeez Al-Shaair's playing style. Well, he's got 3 weeks to cool off. I can understand being hot under the collar about it. The day that the suspension gets upheld, maybe in a few weeks, he will woo-saw and get it out. But that's always going to be in the back of his mind that the NFL kind of screwed him on this thing. What say you? Do you feel like the NFL screwed Azeez Al-Shaair in this, or do you feel like it was justifiable to uphold the punishment and keep it at 3 games? Let me know in the comment section down below. On your way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out a longer conversation about this with myself and Landry Locker on the SNL Texans Talk channel. That link is in the description down below as well. Please go subscribe to that channel. We got some plenty of SNL Texans Talk content coming your way over there, as well as on the regular channels, so don't miss out on any of that. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait until we talk Texans again soon.